Getting ready to do my speech on IPA. I have my audience sitting here.
Hello, Brian.
Okay, let me give it a start. Okay, the speech is about IPA. Many of you know it well, some of you don't know it at all. IPA stands for India Pale Ale. It's a strong type of beer. Its main characteristics are its bitterness and its alcohol content. It's like one of the strongest beers that there is. Like a typical lager will contain like 3 to 5% alcohol, while the average alcohol content on an India Pale Ale is around 7%. So it's a stronger beer. It's bitter because of hops that are used in the brewing process. A lot of the IPAs even have names that express how the hops are in it, like Hop Hinge, Hoptimus, Hoptimum, you know. And so at the beginning of the brewing process, they mix what's called a wort. And the wort can either be sweeter or not as sweet. And the next process is the boiling process where they add the hops. Depending on how much hops that they add in is how bitter the beer will be. So the lady that I talked to at the Stone Brewery told me that for a typical beer, if you were to add the hops, you would add roughly 15 pounds to a large vat of beer. But for their IPA, they would add around 150 pounds of hops. So, you know, that adds a lot more bitterness than your average beer, like, I don't know, like a Budweiser or something. Now, the history of IPA dates back to England, where they would have to make long trips to India. It wasn't called India Pale Ale back then, it was just Pale Ale. They made it hoppy because hops are a natural preservative, and it increased the alcohol content of the beer, which would make it so they could get it to their troops, the English troops in India, without them getting sick when they drank it. So it preserved it, and legend has it, no one knows if this is true or not, that there was a shipwreck and cases of IPA washed ashore in our domestic region in America, and people found it and had a big IPA beach party, and that created the popularity of it here. I read that. I don't know if it's true. Thought I'd add it in there, though. Now, after the popularity grew in India from the strong flavor of the IPA, the East India Trading Company, they commissioned a man named Samuel Alsop, Alsop, in 1822 to brew IPA for them because it was so popular. And him brewing that, like, created even more popularity for it and, like, spread it around the world. So that's why probably we have it. Not the IPA beach party. Now, I said bitterness is the main key of an IPA. Bitterness and alcohol. Well, the bitterness is measured in something called IBUs, the International Bitterness Unit. But that's not like the end-all be-all to the bitterness of the IPA. Like, there's other beers that don't taste as bitter to your palate that are technically more bitter than an IPA. But because of the sweetness of the wort that they use to make it, that, you know, it doesn't taste as bitter because the sweetness cuts through. So, I don't know. In conclusion, had to do the speech on something that I know a bit about and that I like very much, and that just so happens to be IPA. So, there it is. Hope you all enjoy.
Woo!